Hey everybody, this is a clip from the latest episode of the Randi Rhodes Show. If you want the full episode, you can watch live on Free Speech TV, Dish Channel 9415, DirecTV 348, Sling, Roku, and Apple TV.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Use my words against me. If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination, and you could use my words against me, and you'd be absolutely right. If an opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term and the primary process is started, we'll wait to the next election.
There is a long tradition that you don't do this in an election year. The Senate is advising right now, we are advising that a lame duck president in an election year is not going to be able to tip the balance of the Supreme Court. I think it is particularly important that the Senate take it up and confirm this nomination before the election. Because Joe Biden has been explicit. He has said if he doesn't win, he's going to challenge this election. He's going to go to court. He's going to challenge it. He's already hired a big legal team.
Said that?
Hillary Clinton has told Joe Biden under no circumstances should you concede. Given that, there is a serious risk of a constitutional crisis.
It's campaign season. We're right in the middle of it. And one of the most important issues now is this. Who will Americans trust to nominate the next Supreme Court justice? As senators, it leaves us with a choice. Will we allow the people to continue deciding who will nominate the next justice, or will we empower a lame duck president to make that decision on his way out the door? President Trump's nominee for this vacancy will receive a vote on the floor of the Senate. The Senate has more than sufficient time to process a nomination. History and precedent make that perfectly clear.
No, history and precedent make it perfectly clear that we have never, ever confirmed a Supreme Court justice in between July and November of an election year. Yeah, take that in. And when you turn on the TV and when you see that Louisville, Kentucky is now protesting again the death of Breonna Taylor 6 months and 10 days ago today, that is because the justice system in these United States is broken. It's been broken for quite some time because it's been under the thumb of conservative judges. And, you know, this is the point. This is the problem. This is the dilemma in which we find ourselves. That we have courts, that we have a Senate, that we have a House of Representatives that is over-representing a minority of this country. And the minority of this country are tumbleweeds, okay? It's states with very little population, but great representation. So that in North Carolina, because of the gerrymandering and such, you could have 50% of the vote being won by a Democrat, 50% of the vote being won by a Republican, and yet the way the maps are carved up, 70% of the representation will go to Republican members. Keep that in mind the whole time, because please, Louisville, please be peaceful. Please be peaceful. I know you will. What happened here today was such a disgusting, disgraceful shame on the justice system. So here's the thing. You know, Breonna Taylor was sound asleep in her apartment when she was shot dead by police officers executing a no-knock warrant on the wrong address. Whoops. She ended up dead. The grand jury today did not charge any of the officers with her death. In fact, the only thing they charged was a wanton disregard for her neighbors' lives. Her neighbors' lives. Yeah, the grand jury came back and returned an indictment saying that the police officers wantonly shot into the neighboring apartments. In fact, when they read out the indictment on this one police officer, the grand jury specifically included the initials of the apartment dwellers, the people who lived in the apartments, plural, that were affected by bullets. And none of them had the initials BT, which is Breonna Taylor. So no one was charged. Here is the Attorney General Cameron. He said the problem was there was no conclusive evidence regarding who did what, which officer shot.
There is no conclusive evidence that any bullets fired from Detective Hankinson's weapon struck Ms. Taylor. The KSP ballistics analysis did not identify which of the three officers fired the fatal shot. After receiving that information, I asked the FBI crime lab to conduct its own analysis to see if they reached the same results. The FBI ballistics analysis concluded the fatal shot was fired by Detective Cosgrove. Our office looked at both reports to determine if there were major differences in the procedures used by each lab that would have led the FBI to identify who fired the fatal shot. Both law enforcement agencies use similar equipment and analysis, and each lab is highly respected for their work. There was nothing our investigators could point to, nor anything provided by the respective agencies that directly explains why one lab made the call while another did not. I think it is worth repeating again that our investigation found that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in their use of force after having been fired upon by Kenneth Walker.
Oh my God. Oh my God, she was killed before Kenneth Walker responded because he thought his apartment was being broken into by a criminal. Because they had done nothing wrong. They had no reason to even suspect that this would be the police. I mean, it was because they didn't knock, they didn't announce, they just fired. And so the grand jury literally returned an indictment against Officer Hankinson, whose bullet did not kill Breonna Taylor, according to the Attorney General there in Kentucky. And so, they charged him with wanton disregard for the lives of her neighbors. Now, you want to know why it's all messed up like this? You want to know why? Here's some facts. Here's some factoids about who's really in control of the justice system in this country. Okay? First, I got to tell you, we have not had, and this is going to shock you, but it's true, we have not had a Democratic majority on the United States Supreme Court since 1969. We haven't had a Chief Justice appointed by a Democratic president since 1953. And it's all because of things like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and racism that permeates this country. That's just true. That's just true. And so when Mitt Romney folds like a cheap tent, when he stands up there and he wilts like a lily-livered flower in the hot Florida sun and says, well, you've been used to a liberal Supreme Court, I have to sit there and say, what liberal Supreme Court are you freaking talking about? We don't have no stinking liberal Supreme Court, and we haven't had a liberal Supreme Court since 1969. I don't know what he's talking about. You look at the decisions that have been made in the last 20 years. 20. Bush v. Gore in 2000, where the Supreme Court said, stop counting the votes, just stop. The Heller decision. Everyone could have a gun. Everyone could have a gun, which has been interpreted by state legislatures as meaning AK-47s, AR-15, whatever you want, magazines size of Texas, we don't care. Citizens United. Hey, let's pour tons of money into the political system because money is speech. And, of course, the overturning of the Voting Rights Act because America has changed.